Or
learning means dancing. That's right.
okay, just start talking. Let's see how.
רבינו יונה, פרק יבוס, פרק בייס משנה י"ד. שאתה מסייגיה בתורה, תשתעשע בה. תשתעשע. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is משתעשע בתורה, and you have to walk in His ways. That's the lashon. Mamish, I'm quoting Rabbeinu Yonah. Rishon. Everybody quotes the Akdama of the Avnei Nezer to his Eglei Tal. עיקר תלמוד תורה, שיהיה האדם שש ושמח ומסענג על תלמודוי. But this is Avnei Nezer. Rabavo Min Hahar, one of the Rishonim, said the same thing about 700 years before him. So it's mamish the lashon of Rishonim. Mishta'asheya, sha'ashua shel Torah. It has to be fun, it's delicious, it's sweet. So we have a Masoros here. We have a tradition. You weren't here in the previous times. But our tradition here is in this Makom Kodesh, that we have this Rabbi Yisai Dayanim Mumchim, as we said in Erev Rosh Hashanah. No, much more important. And we present cases, serious cases, and we ask the Choshev Dayanim here, Dayanot, to participate and let us know what is the correct halachic approach. Listen, in Yana Diyoyma, a terrorist is advancing towards Yerushalayim. Took a knife and he stabbed this young guy and he's bleeding to death right in front of him. He's on the ground right in front of us. There's a doctor who's asking us this question. I can take care of this patient and I think I can save his life. But the terrorist is advancing towards Yerushalayim and he's going to blow himself up in the middle of the shuk, in the middle of a stadium. There's going to be, 100 people, 10,000 people, I don't know how many people are going to die. What should I do? Should I take care of the pikuach nefesh vada in front of my eyes right now? Or safek pikuach nefesh of many in a very short time in Yerushalayim? Should I run after this guy, after the terrorist, and try to stop him? Or take care of this guy right in front of us? Boy say, what do you say?
Is it father to be able to catch the terrorist and kill him before he does it?
No. But you're talking about saving 1,000 people.
That's also something.
5,000 people.
Have a picking.
Treat the guy right here.
Treat the guy.
So you don't care 5,000. What about 15,000 people in the stadium?
Pull out your phone, but treat the guy.
Don't have a phone. 15,000 people. Where are you going to stop? 20,000 people in a stadium. You don't care.
We care very much, but...
What are you saying?
Bring a riot from Shas.
We like that.
Safek
Pikuach Nefesh, we have to be Michal Shabbos, we eat on Yom Kippur, we do everything. But you have a Vadai Pikuach Nefesh here and a Safek over there. But Safek Pikuach Nefesh of Rabim, as opposed to a Vadai of an individual. How does that work? This child actually went to Rabbi Yosef, Zatzal, when he was still around. And Rabbi Yosef says, you don't have one Safek here. You have 4 Sfekas. What are these 4 Sfekas? First of all, try to run after him. Who says you're going to be able to catch him? He's faster than you. Second of all, if you do catch him, who says you'll be able to? Maybe he's stronger than you. You won't be able to take him. He's going to put you down. So who says? Third of all, maybe others will be able to grab him. You take care of the patient right here and let this guy continue to go to Yerushalayim. Other people will do the same. And fourth of all, and we saw this Baruch Hashem many times, the terrorist tries to explode himself and malfunction, doesn't work. Or just he dies. Happened so many times. Baruch Hashem. So you have 4 Sfeikis, and you have 1 Vadai, treat the Vadai, leave the stuff.
But it's out the 4 Sfeikis, or even if there was just 1 Sfeikis?
Yeah, let's say you get rid of 2 Sfeikis.
Get rid of 3. Get rid of 3.
Get rid of 2 of them.
Well,
make it more challenging.
Once you have Svek, you have a concept of Svek in Shas. But Svek is Svek, you don't have that.
You have a good gun that goes far.
L'choira, even with 1 suffix. Get rid of 3. L'choira, even with 1 suffix, that would be sufficient. But it's kind of hard to say that when you see the guy loaded with 1,000,000 different things and you know 1,000 people are there. But when you have a suffix on top of a suffix on top of the suffix, 4 Svekis, no question. Even though it's talking about 20,000 people. What? The same thing. Similar, but not exactly. The Radbaz says an amazing thing. Why not?
That fate creates more Sveikas in
because Lemaisa, I want to show you how suffix it is. We think, he's going to blow himself up. For sure, 1,000 people are going to die. Who told you? Not exactly, but similar. The Radbaz made a lot of noise when he wrote what he wrote about 450 years ago. True. And everybody agrees to this.
They're bad.
A guy comes and says, we just passed Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. A guy goes to the doctor and he says to him, listen, you can fast. You can't fast twice in 1 week. So, either Tzom Gedalia or Yom Kippur. What should he do? And the Radbaz says, Tzom Gedalia. Tzom Gedalia? Yom Kippur next week is the Yoraisa. Gedalia is the one. Says the Radbaz, yeah. But the mitzvah right in front of you now is called Gedalia. Fast. Tomorrow you say you can't fast, you're called an oines. Oines sluch mana patri. Not everybody agrees. Not everybody agrees. The Chacham Tzvi doesn't like it. But Lechoira, this is similar. You have a mitzvah in front of you. Take care. Take care that you try to heal him. What's going to happen tomorrow? Who says it's even going to happen? And if it does happen, not up to you.
Mila, I'm saying with the baby, bring the baby. So much actually bring the baby on Shabbos.
You're starting with me and Mila Shelo Bizman and Parshas Lech Lecha? Wait. There's a thing called Catch-22. You know what a Catch-22 is?
Yeah.
In Hebrew it's called Galgal HaChoizer. Listen to this. Moyelik. Said Mila Shelo Bizman. Write this down. It's gewaltig. The Rambam rules that a person who mouths Mila Shelo Bizmana is a mumar. The baby was sick. It's on the 9th, the 10th day, it's 2 weeks later, whatever. Now he's healed, we have to mal him. But you don't do this on Shabbos. Shabbos only on the 8th day. Otherwise, Mila Shelo Bizmana, you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. Says the Rambam, if you do, you are called a mumar. The mumar status is just like a goy.
The mumar status goes on the person who does it, or the mumar status
The
on
person
the
who
baby?
does it
Person who does it.
is called a mumar / goy.
And the one and the baby got mouthed was the end of the day was that reverse.
עד כאן הקוף א', הקוף בייס, הקוף בייס. שולחן אורך יורד הרי סמך ד' סעיף א', the שולחן אורך paskins. If a goy dies of bris milah, you're fine. Leave him alone, everything's fine. But the Ramah doesn't like it. And the Ramah says, no good. You gotta do hatafas dam bris. עד כאן הקוף בייס. Now let's take the two, combine it and see what happens. A guy came and did a milah shelo bizmana. What does the Rambam call him?
Mumar.
So what is his real name? A goy. Mumar a goy, he's a goy.
One more time.
Mumar is the same status as a goy.
B'mezid.
He did b'mezid. Mila shelo bizmana.
Mumar ledavar echad.
Mumar b'mezid is called a goy. And you better not drink his wine.
Al Shabbos. So then there's a din ka'akum dummy.
Yeah, because you're not allowed to do it then.
Mr. Goy.
Mumar ledavar echad. We can let the person lead the tefillah.
Mechal Shabbos
But
beforesia.
if it's Shabbos, I hear. To be fair, Shabbos.
Now, Reuven, whose name was just changed to Mr. Goy, did a bris milah on Shabbos. The Rama says, oh, a Goy did a milah on Shabbos? No good. You got to do a tafas dam bris. Fine. If you're going to do a tafas dam bris, it comes out that it wasn't a good milah. It wasn't a milah shleima. So you know what he did do? Kilkul. He was mekalkel. Didn't do anything good. And on Shabbos you have a rule. Call him mekalkelin, pturin. He didn't violate Shabbos. Why did you say he's a Goy? He didn't violate Shabbos. And if he didn't violate Shabbos, it's a complete milah. So everything's good. And if it's a complete milah, so he's a mumar. So if he's a mumar, so he's a Goy. And if he's a Goy, and you're never going to get out of it. If you're going to find a way to get out of it, let me know. It doesn't work. It's called a galgal chol. You start with milah shelo bizman, that's what you're going to get. By the way, talking about milah, a riddle for Parshas Lech Lecha. First milah. You ever heard of an animal? First animal that circumcised. You know, but a lot of people who did. Millions of people. An animal that did a bris milah. Not everybody together. One by one. An animal that did a bris milah.
Oh, by Moshe Rabbeinu.
By Moshe Rabbeinu. What animal is that? Bris milah.
But no, wait, but it says that she did the cutting with the
Aram,
stone.
she did
But
it
it
with
says
stone.
that she cut it
I
with
think you're
stone.
sending us to avoid the Zorah Chaf Zayin. Who maled exactly? Was it Tzipora or was it her son? Was it a Shaliach? We don't know who the Shaliach is, but is it her son? Where is the animal that circumcised?
Give us a hint. Which is
A
this?
hint?
Is this
Tanchuma! Parshas Lech Lecha, Siman Yud Zayin. One more than that. Moiredik. The pasuk says, "Be'etzem hayoyim hazeh nimoil Avraham." How would you write it? Be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, much shorter. Mal Avraham. He circumcised himself. Doesn't say that. What does nimoil mean? he found himself to be circumcised. Why? Because he didn't know what exactly he's supposed to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Bismillah, Shkoyach, I'm the first one. How do you do it? You didn't know? Looking all over, what do I do? Suddenly came a scorpion and bit him and did the Bris Milah. And then look, I'm circumcised. Be'etzem hayom hazeh, nimoy la'avrom. He found himself to be circumcised. So the first animal to circumcise was the scorpion. Tanchum ma'asim el Yud Zayin. If you didn't see it inside, you wouldn't believe it.
Because we know that Avram was makir to
the
someone for giving him eights on it.
The scorpion did the Bris Milah for Avram Avinu, as opposed to when you learn Parshat Pshat that Avram did the Bris Milah on himself.
Chas v'sholem.
Why not?
Why? What day of the week was it? What Yontif was it? Yom Kippur. How can you tell you Avraham Avinu would violate Yom Kippur? Mila shelo bizmana. Therefore, the pasuk says, "V'charois imoy habris." What is imoy? HaKadosh Baruch Hu took as if Kivyochel his hand and did it together with Avraham. Shnayim she'asa'ua pturim. Says that Medrash. Midrashim Chalukim. V'charos imoy habris. HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped them. They do it together. Mila shelo bizmana. Now they do on Shabbos. V'shnayim she'asa'ua pturim. Because Avraham Avinu was Mekayim the whole Torah, as we learn in Kiddushin Pei Beis Amud Aleph and Yom HaChavle Samud Beis. What? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you something, it's lechatchila. V'charois imoy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself held the knife with him. Well, what do you want with him? Some explain like that. Why was he violating Shabbos? But some say no, it was much easier. It's a medrash. V'charois imoy habrit, along with him. Our boys are ready for the second case.
So back to the person who was who had two fasts before
yeah.
I can hear the other side because Lamaisa, when it comes to health, when it comes to Brios, a person, we have different limitations. Different people have limitations. So very much we hear do it now. Here you have a vada in front of you, and there you have a suffix. But Lamaisa, the other side could be true as well.
Yeah.
You know, where
and
you have a vade that your body will be weak. And in the case that Chios continues...
But who told you in this coming few days the doctors won't find something to cure me and I'll be 100%? Who told you?
Right.
Once you have a mitzvah to perform and you performed it,
Right.
all the other cases... You know what?
Right.
Mind the Amaisa. I don't know if I ever told this here in Makom Kodesh. If I did, Chazor. And Mistama, there's some people who didn't hear it. Kedai. Listen to this. Moiredik on Amaisa. Elul Tafshin Ayin. So we're talking 12 years ago. Hatzalah member in Yerushalayim gets a call. Go to 10 Hanan Street in Mea Shorim. Who lived in 10 Hanan Street? Rebbe Yoshev. But he doesn't know this. He's a frum guy, but not so. He runs over to Rebbe Yoshev, who's 199 at that time. And Baruch Hashem, he revived him, he helped him, everything is fine. This is 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah. A few days after Rosh Hashanah, this Hatzalah member gets a call from a gentleman from New York, and he says to him, listen, I'm just visiting you from the States. Are you the one who took care of Rebbe Yoshev just a few weeks ago? He says, yeah. I'd like to meet you. What do you have with me? I want to meet you. I want to ask you something. Fine. They meet, and he says to him, listen, I think what you did 2 weeks ago is the biggest mitzvah in the world. You revived Godol Ador. There's nothing like this. Now, I checked my balance sheet for the previous year. It doesn't look too good. In 3 days is Yom Kippur. I need a biggie. And therefore, I want to offer you. Let's do a business. I want to buy that mitzvah from you. He says, what? What do you mean? I want to buy that mitzvah from you. Believe me, I need it. So here's my offer. I'm a gigantic businessman in New York. I own half of New York State. He takes out a checkbook and he says, listen, and he's writing a number that I don't even know how to pronounce. So many zeros. And he gives it to him and he says, listen, it's 3 more days before Yom Kippur. If I see that you deposit this in the next 3 days, I know we're in. If not, I understand that you didn't want it. Here it is. And this guy's holding the check, he doesn't know what to do. He goes back home. He asks his Levitzin, what do I do? He says, what's the shayla? Do you know what you can do with this money? You know how many hungry people you can feed? You know how many naked people you can clothe? You know how many shoes you can build? You know how many Sifrei Torah you can write? You know our great great, 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 great grandchildren will be set for life. What's the shayla? He still wasn't sure. What do you do when you're not sure? You go to Rabbi Yosef. He goes and says, Rebbe, I don't know if the Rebbe remembers, but 2 weeks ago I was here, I helped him. Yeah, shkoyach, thank you very much. Yeah, b'shayla. Somebody came from the States, he wants to buy that mitzvah from Kippur, he thinks it's a big mitzvah. And he gave me a ton of money. Should I take it or not? Rabbi Yosef said one line, and he repeated it 3 times. I'm going to say it in Hebrew, don't translate. Rabbi Yosef looked at him and he said, אתה רוצה להחליף מצווה בכסף? You want to switch a mitzvah for money? In other words, you already know that this mitzvah of reviving me is worth $5.5 million, and they're offering you $10 million. Who wouldn't do it? You have any concept, any idea what a mitzvah, what the value of a mitzvah is upstairs? How can you start? You have a mitzvah called Tzom Gedalia right now. You can even look at it, according to Minchas Chinuch, it's even a deoraisa. It's a deoraisa and a derabbanon. Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu said, Lo sasu, don't deviate from any word that the Chachamim tell you. The Chachamim told you to fast. Right. So it's two for the price of one. You have no concept, no value, no idea what the value is upstairs. Fast! Tomorrow you tell me you're not feeling well, you can fast? Okay. That's what the Rabbah says. Abba say second case. Corona shala, but it doesn't have to be a corona shala. It could be any person who has. I just came from the hospital. My chavutza here in New York, I used to learn with every single day, is in critical condition. Baruch ben Miriam, the Refuah Shleima. It's weird infection. The doctors don't even know what it is that went into his spinal cord, into his brain. He's basically all the systems shut down. So let's say a person who's on his deathbed. A person comes to the doctor. He's not on a deathbed. He can be. We don't know what it is. Coronavirus. He says, doctor, I don't feel well. Or they just found out that he has cancer. Whatever it is. The doctor is asking a shayla. Can I lie to the patient? Because I know it's not a big deal. But I can tell him, you have COVID-19. No good. Maybe you have 5-6 days, maybe 7 days if you're lucky. Can I tell him his situation is much worse than what it is because I know this guy? He's going to do tshuva. Then after he does tshuva, I said, Baruch Hashem, we did some further testing and we have a new thing. We're going to test this and going to put this medicine in your Baruch Hashem, you're on the way to recovery. Maybe it's because of your tshuva. I don't know, but Baruch Hashem. Can you lie to the patient? Obviously, we're not asking this somebody's going to find out. Chilul Hashem, forget about it. Nobody's going to find out. It's you and the patient. Can you lie in order to cause the person to do tshuva?
Not make him more sick. If he gets very nervous, not make him more sick.
You can tell me he's a goner. What if he thinks he really is a goner? You know what? Sometimes a person comes and he's coughing, and you're going to tell him, "You're a goner." So what? He's not going to die because of that. What's going to happen? Tomorrow he's going to be fine. But I caused him to do tshuva.
Here, if it says you only have 5 days, the guy can get something.
That's what I'm going to tell him. It's not true.
No, it's not true.
It's not going to affect him. It's not going to affect him.
Why don't we ask the Shiloh different? Why don't you just go, put a mask on, go on the street, take a stick, whack the guy a couple times, and he'll stop thinking. Cheshvan will do tshuva.
You don't do a mitzvah. An aveira.
Okay, and giving him sour in his head is not
tshuva. Tshuva.
So this also for tshuva.
That's what I'm asking for tshuva. You're never allowed to lie.
For shalom.
Only for shalom.
You don't find.
Who told you you're allowed to lie for shalom?
The Gemara talks about 3 places where you're allowed. Where it comes
only 3 places. He's sending us to Yevamos Samechei, Godol HaSholom, that even HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed. You're sending us to Bab Metziach Avgim Amud Beis, that a Talmid Chochem is allowed to change from, not to lie, is allowed to change from the truth in 3 things. What are the 3 things? You can't say without saying the 3 things. Masechta, Puraya, and Ushpiza. What is Masechta? If they ask him, do you know Menachos? No. He chazar it 100 times, he knows by heart. So why is he saying no? Yes. You're allowed to. What is Puria? Did you sleep on that bed last night? Oh no. Yes. What is Ushpiza? Were you hosted by the Cohen family yesterday? No, even though you did. How was it? Oh, it was okay. It was amazing. But if you're going to say that, the whole town is going to go to him. That's the pshat. Rashi is a moyedik The Chaim Palaji, he says, you know what a shpiza is? You really want to have a guest over for Shabbos. Your wife says, I don't want. You're allowed to lie to your wife and say, listen, I need to bring this guy in. I need him for business. Sunday I have a big business meeting with him. It's very important. We need to have him. Oh, for that, fine. You're allowed to lie because Hachnasas Orchim is so great. Shabbos Kuf Chaf Zayin. Gidoila Hachnasas Orchim. Next Shabbos Parashat Vayera. Yoiser Mehakbalas Pnei Shechina. You're allowed to lie for that reason. Amazing. Anyways, there's 3 things in Bab Metzia. You send it to Yevamos Samechei Godol Shalom, but there's at least, I think, 30 different cases that one is allowed to lie. Is it an isur to lie, by the way? Midvar sheker tirchak. Parshas Mishpatim. What does that mean? Is that an individual? Is that an individual? Sefer HaChinuch Mitzvah in Dalet says this is a mitzvah and a Beis Din. Not an individual. All Moinei HaMitzvahs. Sefer HaCharedim. Whoa, wait. The same Sefer HaChinuch, though, in Mitzvah Ayin Dalet says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kel Emes. And those who cling to Him and walk in His ways will get the bracha bestowed on their head. Those who deviate from Emes, the opposite of bracha will come their way. Sefer Mesiras Yeshorim in Perek Yud Aleph says there are 3 pillars that the world stands on. Not the beginning of Pirkei Avos, a little later, Al Hadin, Al HaEmes, Ve'al HaSholom. Which means, says Mesiras Yeshorim, if you take the pillar of Emes and you don't use it, you're making this place a very unstable place, a very shaky place. Not a good idea. But lemaise all moinei hamitzvos, Charedim, Rambam, Chinuch, Yereim, none of them count sheker as one of the Taryag mitzvahs. Only the Smag and the Smak, I think Reish Chaf Zayin and Reish and Kuf Zayin, they count it as a lav. Don't lie. But no one else does. The Rambam in Hilchos Deya says, a Talmid Chochem doesn't change from his word in his business dealings. And I think there's at least 30 cases that I remember in Shas that one is allowed to lie to prevent from extortion. Example. Sanhedrin Yud Aleph. Rebbe is teaching a shir. Suddenly, someone eat garlic here? Reb Chia gets up and leaves. Did Reb Chia eat garlic? Reb Chia can't stand garlic. But he did it. Why? In order not to embarrass others. The Gemara gives 2 other examples.
That's in the same umbrella, so.
The Gemara in Yevamos, a guy is running from jail, and he gets to the river, and he needs to cross. There's a boat, a taxi boat. So he says, can I hop in? He says, well, it's 2 o'clock on my lunch break. Come back next hour. I gotta go now! And this guy normally charges $5. But I'm on my lunch break. How much do you want? He says, $10,000. $10,000? Fine! And he jumps in. He gets to the other side, and the guy says, where's the money? He says, here's $5. He says, whoa. $10,000. What is he allowed to say? Meshate ani bach. I was fooling you. You're allowed to do this for many, many, many reasons. I think 30 different reasons. So why are you not allowed in order to cause a person to do tshuva? It is his problem that it's your pikuach nefesh. And who says pikuach nefesh? The Gemara doesn't say pikuach nefesh. You know what? There's another ma'aseh there with Rav Papa. There was a lady whose husband died, no kids. She needs yibum. Her brother-in-law wanted to do the mitzvah of yibum, but she was in a different league. Not shayach. She was a very chosh of a lady. Wasn't shayach. So she wanted just to have chalitza. He says, no, I want yibum. I want you as my wife. So Rav Papa came to him and said, listen, I'll give you 200 zuz. Leave her alone. Just do the chalitza. 200 zuz. Now we're talking business. How much is 200 zuz, by the way, in our language today? How do you do the math? What's 200 zuz? Haggadah Shel Pesach, how does it end? Chad Gadya. The Zabin Abba, how much? Trei zuzui. He bought what? How much is a Gadya today? $300. And he bought it for how much? So how much is each zuz? 150. If you're right with the numbers. 150 times 200. That's what the Papa was offering him. It's a lot of money. He says, yeah, I'm in. So he did the chalitza. And then he runs to the Papa. Where's the money? Meshate ani bach. Pikuach nefesh? Pikuach nefesh? Shalom bais? HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands. Yibum. But she didn't want.
The guy's a fool for not taking the deposit.
Sukkah lamed daled. the people who are selling Hadassim raised the price. Bitachon comes and says, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to go to Shul, I'm going to darshan. Hadassim Tumas, I'll kosher. Boom, price drop. Pikuach nefesh shayla? Shalom shayla? No, to prevent extortion. This fine with sis, and we find for many reasons. Why can't I lie? In order to cause the person to get closer to Ribono Shel Olam. What's so wrong with that? Does it bother you that he's going to say a few more kapitel Tehillim? With Shuvah, he'll learn to give him tzedakah. You don't like it.
You can't be Mitzvah person.
What's mitzvah? You're getting in closer to Ribono Shel Olam.
Who said he's going to do Shuvah? How do you know he's going to do Shuvah? Maybe he's going to say, you know what?
He's my neighbor, I know it. And worst comes to worst, what do you have to lose?
Maybe
Tomorrow I'll tell him the good news.
He'll cause him to go off to there. He'll say, you know what? I've done live.
He's already off the derech. How far can he go? Do you like it, Rebbetzin? You like it? 4 against 1. Do you have a raya to like it? Do you have a raya not to like it? You can't just say, you know, you're in Beis Din, you have to say some kind of a source. Some kind of documentation. Shas, Shulchan Aruch, Poskim, Chumash, whatever you want. Baba Basra Daf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph. We learn about Pnina. Remember the Maaseh with Pnina?
Yeah. Oh,
Pnina is married and has a lot of children. Chana is married and how many children does she have? 0. You know what Pnina used to do every morning? Chana, who's doing carpool today? Oh, so sorry, I forgot. You don't have any kids? Sorry. In the afternoon, the kids came back from school, so Pnina would go to Chana and says, how's the report card? Mine was on... Oh, so sorry. You don't have any kids? So sorry. And she would do this every single day. Morning and night. Why did she do it? L'shem Shamayim. So Chana can daven to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and it worked. Chana daven to Kodesh Baruch Hu, she had kids. But the Gemara says about the Taf Tezayin Amud Aleph that Pnina was punished, even though what kind of punishment?
Lost all the kids.
So you see, even L'shem Shamayim, it doesn't work. However, in Shvus Yankev, Shvus Yankev is a Kadmon, I think about 450 years ago. He writes, the Dayanim reached a psak, but they feel they reach it too fast. And if they will say over their ruling to the person, people are going to start bad-mouthing them. But they do it so fast. It's not a serious Beis Din. They were allowed to withhold the din. This is called inui hadin. It's a terrible thing to do to a person. You know what the psak is and not to tell him? It's terrible. They're allowed to do this. You're causing him tsar. What's the chiluk? What's the difference between the Beis Din who's allowed to do this and Pnina, who did the same thing? She caused Chana tsar and she's not allowed to do it and she was punished. Wow. Speaking like the Aderes. You know who the Aderes is? Eliyahu David Rabinowitz Teomim, the chief rabbi of Israel. Chief rabbi of Yerushalayim about 85 years ago. But when I mention his name, Adam Kadosh, I must tell you a maaseh about him. Moira Dika maaseh. Reb Shmuel Salant was the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim. He was already 93 years old and he felt he can't do this anymore. So he asked that they bring the Aderes.
Father-in-law or Rebbe? Neither?
I don't think
Made that
so.
up?
I didn't say that. I don't think so.
Okay.
Reb Shmuel Salant asked that they bring the Aderes from Europe. He was the rabbi of the Mir and then of Ponovich. He was young. He was 64 at the time. By the way, he wrote 120 Sfarim. Only 2 were printed in his time. They have the manuscripts and they are printing it today. He was brought to Yerushalayim. And we have a letter in our possession today where he writes back to his family in Europe, saying to them, you know, Anshe Yerushalayim think they did me such a big toiva. They rented for me an apartment overlooking the Makom HaMikdash. And they don't know that they're shortening my life. Because every day when I look out the window and I see the Beis HaMikdash, Bechurbanoi, it breaks my heart. And little did he know, he prophesied. He didn't know what he prophesied. He only lasted in Yerushalayim 2 years and he died. Reb Shmuel Salant, who asked him to come and replace him, was still around and he gave the hesped at his levaya. So the Aderes, in one of his many svarim called the Oiver Orach, in Siman Reish Chav Beis, says this chiluk, what you said exactly. It's a big difference. Pnina was kum ve'aseh. She was driving her crazy, but kum ve'aseh actively doing this. What are the Yanim doing? Nothing. They're passive. Sheva al Taiser, different. Second of all, he says, Pnina did it many times. Every single day, day and night. The Dayanim are all going to do it once. Yesh lehakel. An interesting chiluk. Bab Metzia Samech of the Gemara says, you're not allowed to steal.
Everybody agrees that.
Also, the Bnei was a yachid.
Yeah, the Gemara says L'shem Shamayim. So why was she punished? Because even when we do L'shem Shamayim, you got to do it according to, ask your rabbi.
You could also say Bnei was a yachid and this is
Could be. But Metzias Samech Alaf Beis, the Gemara says, Lo signoi, don't steal, even afilu al menas lemekat. What is the mekat? You have a chavrusa, it happens all the time in yeshiva. You have a chavrusa, and he leaves his cell phone on the table, and then he goes. He leaves his car keys on the table, and he goes. It's just not a good idea. The Arab cleaning lady comes here with a cell phone. There's people who come here, don't leave things here. He doesn't listen. So you want to teach him a lesson. So you take it away for 5 minutes. And then he comes back, he says, where's my... Oh, I don't know. Oi, what happened to it? And then 5 minutes later, I told you, people can take it. Even that little 2-minute thing, aggravation, you can't cause him. Afilu al menas lemek it, not allowed to steal. Says the Hamek Shaila.
Lemek means to teach?
To tease. But for a good purpose. To cause him tsar. But for a good purpose, that he should take care of this thing, belongings, or for whatever reason. You're not allowed to do this. Says the Hamek Shaila and Simen, hey, you see, even for a sha'akara, even for a short time, you're not allowed to cause a tsar to a yid. So back to our Shaila, like all of you ruled, sorry. You will not be allowed as a doctor to say to the patient, you're a goner. Better ways. Figure out a better way. I don't know. Take him to Gateway Seminary, to Arachim, to Eshat Torah, or Sameach, I hope we cut with Chabad, whatever, you figure it out. But you cannot lie to the patient. From Tsar...
If you could scare him by not answering him.
You're also causing him a tsar.
No.
Passively, you're like the Dayanim. But you might say causing him a tsar. Why don't you say, after I tested you, before the results came back, I was davening for you. I said the whole Sefer Tehillim 3 times for you. And now I have the results. Maybe you should do the same. It works. Whatever, come up with something clever. Like that, about it. From Tsar to Simcha. I want to tell you a Mordek Maise with my Rebbe. Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Shlita. Maise that I'm a close witness to. I have a neighbor, next door neighbor. Good friends. His name is Itzik Khuri. He asked me to say his name. Itzik Khuri got married 21 and a half years ago. No children. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, no children. He went to all the rabbis, dead and alive. 13 years, 15 years, 20 years, no children. For 20 years he goes to Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim says to him, should build a mikveh in a place they don't have, that's the Eitzah. Mida keneged mida. Fine. He's mekabel, doesn't have the money. Starts to raise money. Some friends went on his behalf to the States because he doesn't speak a word of English, and after a few months, they raised, I think it was 750 shekels, 750,000 shekels. Very short time, 3-4 months, they built a beautiful mikveh in a place called Zohar. They're 40 minutes south from where I live in Bet Shemesh. Chodesh Tammuz. They open up the mikveh, they called me, I should speak there. It's very, very emotional, it's a very exciting day. That night, his wife became pregnant. That night. 9 months later, baby girl. Ve'ikar Shema B'Yisrael, Rivka. Ad kan Akofe Aleph. Itzik Khuri has a brother. His name is Neri. Neri got married. A year, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, no children. After 13 years of no children, his brother Itzik went to Reb Chaim. So he figured maybe I should go to Reb Chaim too. He goes to Reb Chaim a month after his brother. Says, Rebbe, we're married 13 years, no children. Reb Chaim looks at him, he says, should be makpid and meiser. Meiser? Every shekel that comes in, I write down, I'm very, very strict with that. So Reb Chaim says, not meiser ksafim, meiser peiros. Fruits and vegetables. He says, I'm very strict with that as well. Reb Chaim repeats, meiser peiros. So he says, but my brother was just here a month ago, you told him mikveh, maybe I should build a mikveh? He says, meiser peiros. First of all, you see, by Reb Chaim, it's not one size fits all. Whatever Kodesh Baruch Hu puts in his mouth, he just say to people, fine. He goes out, he goes to Gilo where he lives, to the store where he thought they're very strict with my son. Apparently, they're not so strict with my son. He started becoming very strict with my son. 3 weeks later, his wife became pregnant. 9 months later, which means a month after Itzi gave birth to a baby girl, Rivka, his wife gave birth to a baby boy. Ad kan Akofe Beis. Akofe Gimel. Right after this happened, with Itzik, they gave birth to a girl. You don't understand what happened in Eretz Yisrael. All the TV channels, radio stations, secular, They all came to interview him. Such a Kiddush Hashem, it was unbelievable. And he went on all over. So he came to talk to me one day. He says, I'm going to be interviewed in a few minutes, and with big, he talked to me about things, and he asked me what you do. And then he was telling me, before my brother Neri was married, he lived by me for 6 months. And then one day he told me, after I get married, first you, Itzik, and then me. First you should have children, and then me. After all, you're older than me. You're already married 7 years. First you should have children, and then me. And I said to him, don't say that. Why don't you open your mouth? Don't say that. No, Itzik, it's only right. You should have kids first, and then me. He opened his mouth. He had to endure 13 years, no children. As I was saying, Bochus Yutes and Bochus Samech, Al Tiftach Pe Lasatan. Right after he told me this, I think 3 or 4 days later, an Almana tells me the following Maisa. She's now 83 or 84. When her husband was 80, she went with him. She's, I think, 3 or 4 years younger than him. They went to a lawyer to write a will. The lawyer, apparently not the sharpest knife in the drawer, asked them a very stupid question. So, how long more do you think you have here? What kind of a question is that? They're 80 years old. He's 80 years old. And her husband says, 5 years max. Stupid answer. But she thought he was kidding. So she didn't say anything. 5 years later, 3 weeks before his birthday, he's taken away. Shiva Shalman. Al tiftach pe lasoton. He's very busy as is. You don't have to give him more work. He's very good at what he does. We don't have to contribute. But you see the koyach of the chachamim, koyach of the kedusha, and koyach of the tahara, of Rabbi Kanievsky, a pe kodosh. The koyach to say brachos. Rabbi Isai, another question. Just before Rosh Hashanah, people come with interesting maises that they figure maybe I have to do tshuva for. The guy comes and asks me, the Baal Tshuva. So he says, 21 years ago, when I was dating, he was already a Baal Tshuva. So at one point, his future Kala wrote him a little letter. Took this letter and took it to a graphologist, a person who analyzes the handwriting of people. Now, Baruch Hashem,
unbelievable. 21 years is nothing else than the tshuva. One thing that was bothering him for 21
no, for everything else, he already did tshuva. Now he's asking for this too. He just suddenly.
No, probably in 20 years he gets everything eventually catches up.
So he says, listen, Baruch Hashem worked out, right? They got married. They have lovely family. I know them very well. But he says, do I have to do tshuva for this? Would you like somebody to take your handwriting to be analyzed? No. Do you have to do tshuva? Obviously, he did it without her knowing. Are you allowed to do this? Would you like somebody to take your handwriting? You wouldn't like it.
What's the question?
Am I allowed to do tshuva?
Why is he that? He wants to know if the lady he's marrying is.
Why did she write you the note? In order for you to take it to a professional?
Would he have broken off the should have had the pathologist said something?
Sure. He took it to the X-ray. The X-ray machine, this is damaged goods. So you throw it out.
So what's the difference between making phone calls to find out? You try to find that information.
Because she knows you're going to make phone calls. She has no idea that she writes you a very intimate letter and you take it to a professional and you show him big difference. That's a shayla. You don't like it, right?
And other professionals always right.
Tshuva.
And other professionals always right.
What's that?
Phone calls are beforehand.
Phone calls before. Even during. But this you don't like. What are you saying?
No tshuva.
First of all, since when are all these pathologists always right?
Good question. Was a smart move or not? No, let's ask. We'll talk about it soon. We'll see if it's smart or not. But the fact that he took it and showed it to somebody else when it's a private letter to him.
The Isra being objection to show any of the mail that you have to anyone else.
No.
The Cherem de Rabbeinu Gershom is not for you to show it to others. It's for someone to open up your letter and to see what somebody else wrote to you.
No.
If I let him and it's mine, we can do whatever he wants. The question is, was I allowed to show it to a third party?
Yeah. She gave it to me.
You have a raya? What about embarrassing her?
Obviously, didn't embarrass her because they're happily married for 21 years.
She didn't know about it.
Good.
She still doesn't know about it.
Don't tell her.
Listen, he's obviously not such a stupid guy.
But who says you're allowed to?
He says you're allowed to. Oh boy.
You don't have to be matir.
constant placing in your brain. We'll figure it out.
Oh, got it? What do you say? First of all, he didn't do it to spite. He didn't do it to hurt her. He did it to protect himself. That's not enough. We need a raya.
Will it ruin their current marriage if he asks for forgiveness for it?
And if he does, and it does ruin it, so he shouldn't ask her?
No, that's a problem.
That's a machlokes Rabbi Sol Salanter and the Chofetz Chaim. What happens when I said a lashon hara, a nice juicy lashon hara, but the guy doesn't know? But they tell me before Yom Kippur, you got to do before Shana, you got to do tshuva. Maybe even before Yom Kippur, maybe even today, do tshuva.
That's when you tell them. That's when you tell your wife. You should really say tefillah zak.
So you go to the person and say, by the way, you're not aware of it, but ooh, did I badmouth you yesterday? Don't ask. Now he's going to hate you even more. What did you gain? Says the Chofetz Chaim, you got to do tshuva. There's nothing to do with it. You got to go to the guy and apologize. Rabbi Sol Salant didn't like it. And that's the reason Rabbi Sol Salant didn't want to give a askama to the Shmiras Halashon of the Chofetz Chaim. She says, because I don't agree with you on this thing. Change it. The Chofetz Chaim didn't want to change it. Sure, he didn't get an askama from the Rabbi Sol Salant. Machlokes. Lemaise, I think the world holds not like the Chofetz Chaim, and like Rabbi Sol Salant, and we don't cause further aggravation. So what do you want her to tell her now? For what? What are we going to gain from that? Let's keep it a secret here, and the recording here. Don't. What? I'll tell you where he lives. Don't send him the recording. Don't send her the
I'm
recording.
only saying to you. I'm only saying to you. You do whatever you want.
We need a raya. I think I have a raya. First of all, he's doing it to protect himself. He's not doing it to hurt anyone. Second of all, as you said, maybe you said it before, it says, once she sends me a letter, it becomes my possession, right? Proof. If they split, is he allowed to sell it one day? In 30 years, she becomes a very public, she becomes a celebrity. 50 years ago, I have a letter from some... Am I not allowed to sell it? I'm allowed to sell it. Did she say, thou shall not... So it's my private... It's my possession. I can do whatever I want with my possessions. You're saying it's not so... It doesn't smell so good. I think I have a raya. It's the Mishnah in Ksubis Ayin Hey. The Mishnah says, a person marries a woman, and he goes back home, and he thought she has two normal legs. One is a wooden leg. What is it called? He can call a mekachtos. If I would have known. She has all kinds of blemishes. Mekachtos, it can cancel the deal. However, if there's a bathhouse in town where everybody goes to, he will not be able to claim mekachtos. Why? Because not like today when we have baths at home, they would go once a week on Friday to public bathhouse, and he can send his sisters, his relatives, to spy on her. Is that really nice? She's going to take a nice bath before Shabbos, and she's not aware that there's people watching her. Imagine the breach of privacy and intimacy, and yet 100% kosher. You see that even though she wasn't aware, she should be aware. You're in Shidduchim. Don't you know people are going to be calling the seminary, the teachers, the friends, the neighbors, and possibly they're going to be spying on you in the bathhouse, and possibly they're going to take your handwriting, as people do all the time. In the last 20 or 30 years, people do this in job applications. Or they ask the person in, and they ask him to write all kinds of things, and they send it. This is done all the time, especially in Israel. I don't know here. Done all the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. I'm just putting you through an X-ray, and you don't even have to know. When you are under scrutiny, and you know that this is the time that you're checked, you should be aware that maybe. And if you don't want me to take it to the graphologist, don't write that letter. Who asked you to write that letter? And you still don't want me, and you want to write the letter, write it. And just write. Please don't show it to anyone. Fine? Yeah.
Why?
Because I only gave it to you al das. I'll give it to you al das that you're going to respect my condition. But if you didn't write it, it becomes mine, and I can do with my belongings whatever I want.
On the outside of the envelope.
No, not naikafu. Not naikafu. That's the agreement between us. It's even written. It's not even a verbal agreement. Al das that I gave it to you. Al das that you were willing, you accepted it, and then that would be sufficient.
Let me ask you another shayla. Let's say that girl, turns out she came to you and asked the shayla. 21 years ago, I wanted to write him a note, but I was afraid he would take the note to the writing expert.
Right.
And I have some issues I don't want him to know about.
Right.
So I asked my girlfriend.
Write it for me.
Write him the note for me. I'll dictate.
Good
She allowed to
question.
do that.
Fantastic question.
That can is not.
There was a Maaseh similar to this. When a person, a big vir, came, I think it was to the Ponovich, I'm not sure, and he was running to shul, and he didn't have a jacket. So he took a jacket from one of the boys, and his daughter was in Shidduchim. He's davening, Shmoneh Esrei, Kodesh Baruch Hu, send the right Shidduch for my daughter. After Shmoneh Esrei, some papers here. Takes the papers. Chidushei Torah. What Chidush Torah is? Talmid Chochem Muflag. Who is this genius? I want him. Is the Shidduch for my daughter? He goes back and gives the jacket, and there was a switcheroo, and he thought the guy. It's exactly your Maaseh. He took the wrong bachur, thinking. Bedas. But then the bachur between themselves was bedas uvedas. Similar.
The Bible told a story about a girl. They read her a shidduch, but she wanted a neat guy. So she went to the dormitory. She asked the guy, "Show me this guy's room," or I'm saying no to the shidduch.
Look at somebody
He
else.
said, "You have 1 minute to look." He runs upstairs, opens the door. She looks, closes the door. She leaves. The shidduch happens. 10 years later, they meet in the street. This guy and this girl. She says, "Whose room did you really show me?"
There's a rule in Shidduchim. First of all, you remind me of Maaseh of the Ponovich Rav. Somebody came to the Ponovich Rav and said, "Rebbe, can't take it anymore. My wife can't take it. Write us again." I tried everything. Rebbe, you don't understand. What's bothering you? He says, "My wife. I have to see our house. It's a disaster. She is so, what's a balagan? Can't take it." And I always yell at her. And she said, "I'm going to try." She can't. I can't live in a mess. I just can't. So we tried everything. I tried. Okay. Come to me tonight. We'll do the get for you. She says, "Okay, fine." Ponovich Rav runs home. He says to Rebbitzin, "We have some work to do." "What do you mean?" "Take the dirty dishes from the sink, put it in the living room. Take the dirty laundry from the machine and put them in the kitchen. Take this. Why? Ezo isha ksheira she'oisa retzoin ba'ala." She was a tiny woman. She didn't want it. But the Rebbe said, they destroyed their house. When they finished, yes, I came for the get. "Oh, yeah, come on in. The guy comes in and says, "Oh my goodness, how do you live like this?" I said, "What do you mean? How do you? What's wrong? Come, let's go to the living room." I said, "What are you? Okay, can I rethink this? If it's good enough for the Ponovich Rav, I think it's good enough for me." He turned around and never came back. Ponovich Rav, he says, "No, Mami Shev Maaseh. You have to have creativity for Shlom Bayis." Meridik. From a Meridik and Maaseh, you know what? Talk about Shidduchim, I asked another Shaila about Shidduchim. True Maaseh. A guy goes to the doctor, and he says, "Listen, I don't feel well. It's been 2 or 3 weeks already. Very weak. Do me a favor. Check. But don't tell me what I have. Give me the right medicines, do whatever you need. Don't tell me what I have." And he says, "Why?" He says, "Listen, I'm in Shidduchim. You're going to tell me I have, I don't know what, XYZ, I'm going to have to tell it to the girl. If I do that, who's going to want to go out with me? So don't tell me. If I don't know, I don't have to say." The doctor tests and does this and does that. And he gives them a prescription. He says, take this. And by the way, you have Crohn's disease. "What did you do? I told you not to open your mouth. Why did you have to do this? You wrecked it for me." He says, "I told you not to say. Listen, you take $500 just for this. You wrecked it for me. What did you do? Now I'm going to have to say. You can't have Crohn's disease and not say it." "I'm not going to pay you $1. Does he have to pay him or not? "I made a condition with you. I told you I don't want to hear. Why did you have to say it?" That was my condition.
Is it tonight awful?
No.
And if you do say I'm not going to pay?
No. But I told you, but that's the reason I came here.
What did I contract? I contracted you to do something, and you didn't give me what I asked for.
If you're not going to pay,
More than that, you destroyed it. You wrecked it for me.
Yeah, but also, doctor's point of view, doctor needs to help this person.
Right?
Doesn't tell him what he has.
Tell me what to do. And I'll do anything you say. What do you have to say that
Okay.
curse word? I have to know that I have Crohn's? What do you do? What do you say? Yisrael went to Rabbi Yosef. And Rabbi Yosef said, of course you have to pay. The doctor is paid for his expertise in healing you. He did. He gave the prescription. You go to the carpenter and you order a beautiful closet. 3 weeks later, the carpenter comes, he puts that closet, beautiful, exactly what you want, like you wanted. And then he looks at you, and he slaps you and bangs you, and he breaks 3 of your teeth. I'm not going to pay you. What? What's the connection? For the closet that he made for you, you have to pay. You want to sue him for breaking your teeth? So go sue him. Sue the doctor. Very bad what he did. But what's the connection to what he healed you? He gave you the prescription. He gave you the medicine. You're going to be fine. Hopefully. But it has nothing to do with the doctor's fee, which is for his expertise and for his service. And for that, he should be paid. What you say? From one unbelievable story before to another. This is truly unbelievable. The Sefer called Zichron LeMoshe, about the life of the Chassam Sofer. This was printed many times. And there's no footnote saying this is too crazy, this is too bold. So you have to assume this is Lemaisa. The Sefer came out about 100 years ago. Put on your seatbelts, because if you don't, this is dangerous, you may fall. In a small town, where was the Chassam Sofer, the Rav?
In Preshburg.
In Preshburg, in Hungary. In a small town, not too far from Preshburg. It's a small town, small local rabbi. A goy starts looking at Yiddishkeit and falls in love. He goes to Rabbi, convert me. He checked him out, he saw that he's sincere, went through the whole process with him, convert him. The moyel of town, mocked him. Outcome beautiful. 3 days later, this prospect convert becomes very sick. High fever. And he's between life and death. They don't know what to do with him. The goyim in town went ballistic. First of all, they don't like us to begin with. And to convert? And to kill our people? So they decided they want to kill all the Jews in town. The Rav in town rushed to the Chassam Sofer and told him, the Chassam Sofer yelled at this Rav. He said, what are you doing? Taking a regular moil of little babies to circumcise an adult? It's stitches. It's a big deal. You don't do that. He says, fine, Rebbe, fine. Chatasi avisi pasarti. But Lemaisa now, what do we do? How to fix it? They want to kill us all. The Chassam Sofer thinks, and he says, I have no eitzah for you, other than you have to be mekabel on yourself mesirus nefesh, to die, you and the moyel, in order to save the entire keilah. What do you mean? Some Sefer says to him, you, the moyel, and the ger. And I'll tell you what you do. Go back home. Tell the ger, and tell everybody else, you found a very big doctor in Vilna who's going to help him, and you're going to take him away. Say goodbye nicely to your wife and your kids, because you're never going to see them again. Tell the moral to do the same. Don't tell the ger what's going on. He's just going to think he's going to see the doctor. When you pass by a certain river, suddenly tilt the wheel and you'll go into the water and you'll drown and you'll die. If you're willing to be mekabel mesirus nefesh, this will be the tikkun, Imen Hashem, everybody will live. Are you mekabel it? And the Rav says yes. Some Sefer says something. Do you believe this? Unbelievable. A mekabel. He runs back to town. He says to the moyel, some Sefer says we have to be mekabel on ourselves mesirus nefesh. Are you in? I'm in. They go to the ger. He says, ger, we have a doctor, the top doctor in Vilna is willing to see you. Come. The rabbi goes to his wife. He says goodbye. And he hugs her and kisses her. He says, you always go on each other. Why are you crying? What happened? No, I already miss you. The moyel says the same thing to his household members. If they go on the not car, what do they have then? The wagon. And they start driving, and they get to that river where they're supposed to tilt the wheel, and suddenly a guy comes over and says, what are you doing? What are you doing? I don't like what you're doing. What are you doing here? What are you doing? So the Rav gets off because he doesn't want to hear the ger to hear what's going on. And he says, listen, who are you? What are you? And he starts talking to him, and he says, tell me talking. He says, some Sofer told me to do what I'm doing. Stop it. Don't bother us. Some Sofer. what are you doing? He says, some Sofer told me I have to go into the water. We have to commit suicide. What? Don't worry, I have the water. What water? I have the water in the suitcase. What water in the suitcase? This guy opens up the suitcase and he takes some water and he says to the ger, show me the makom amila, and he spritzes some water and he says, get up, you're fine. He gets up, he starts walking. No fever, no nothing. The guy leaves. The Rav and the Moyel and the ger goes in the ger wagon. And where do they go now? To some Sofer. Rebbe, you're not going to believe what happened. The Chassam Sofer was already in the middle of the street waiting for them. And he's smiling. He says, Rebbe, you're not going to believe what happened. He says, I'll believe it. You know who he was? It's Eliyahu Hanavi. But I couldn't send Eliyahu Hanavi until you're Mekabel Mesirus Nefesh on yourself. Ad kan the story. Now I read the story and I am left with earth-shattering questions. The fact that the Chassam Sofer had a Gilui Eliyahu, Pashut. But the Chassam Sofer can use Eliyahu whenever he feels like it, not so Pashut to me. Okay, fine. What about En Somchin Al Hanes? Eliyahu Hanavi is your rabbi. Boom! And if Eliyahu is 2 minutes late, I don't know if Eliyahu can be late, but En Somchin Al Hanes.
You have the connection to Eliyahu.
Shmuel Hanavi is saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want me to go and crown David? V'shama Shaul ve'aragani. Shaul is going to kill me. What do you mean, Shama Shaul ve'aragani? HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you to do something. Yeah, but it's dangerous. En somchin al hanes. It's makom sakana. So he's somich al hanes? I don't understand it. What? I don't understand it. But you know what? Meile. The fact that the Rav and the Moyel have to accept them in some Mesirus Nefesh, mind-boggling. But you know what? Somehow, maybe I can digest it. Why? There's the Gemara in Tanis Yud Ches Amud Beis. Rashi over there told us an unbelievable story, again in Bitachon Daf Nun, about two brothers, Papus and Lulianus, in the city of Lod. What happened there? The king's daughter was murdered. Whom did he accuse? It's the Jews. And therefore he said, we're going to kill all the Jews here, unless you give over the murderer. Papus and Lulianus, two brothers, never touched that girl. They don't even know who she is. They went over to the king and they said, oh dear king, we did it. They were executed and they saved the entire town. And the Gemara says about them in Bitachon Daf Nun, Harugei Malchus and Birya Yechoila La'amod B'mchitzas, and no one stands close next to them. They were Moiser Nefesh for Klal Yisrael. So maybe we can compare the stories and say, you know what, the Rav and the Moel can't. But the girl, what did he do wrong? Why does he have to die? What do you say, Rabbi Isa? Hard to digest, no? Why does the ger have to accept on himself Mesirus Nefesh?
He was dying anyway.
Oh, what a svara. He's called a Gava Ketila, he's Treifa. Who told you? What am I Makos?
Killed a dead person.
It's a dead man walking. It's a Gemara Nedorim Chaf. Ula was going to Eretz Yisrael, accompanied by two goyim from a place called Bei Chozai. At one point, goy number one got upset at goy number two, took a knife, slashed his throat. The guy was almost about to die. The goy who just did this looks at Ula and says, did I do good? Did you like it? What is Ula supposed to say? Shame on you! What did you do? What did Ula say? Good job. But Ula didn't stop there. And Ula said, complete the job. Pralo es beisa shchita. Why don't you complete the job? When Ula came to Eretz Yisrael, he came to Rabbi Yochanan and says, Rebbe, did I do good? Rabbi Yochanan says, excellent. Says that Tiferet Yisrael, an unbelievable thing. Chaye Shah of Ula is greater than, Chaye Oilam of Ula is greater, overrides Chaye Shah of that person. Even though normally we don't actively go and kill someone, but here it's Chaye Shah, he's a treifa. How long he's going to live? He's between life and death anyways. He has an hour to go, he has 2 hours to go. Ula has, who knows how many years? Chaye Oilam of Ula overrides Chaye Shah. Lichoira is what you're saying. He is sort of a treifa. How long does he have to live? So I don't want to say get rid of him, but let's get rid of him in order to save the many. Even though normally we don't sacrifice a person to save others, maybe. Even though the Rambam says,
it was all a fake out anyway.
what?
It was all a fake out anyway.
But I have to understand that some sofer says something. You have to understand where it's coming from. You can't say something which is against halacha. He was a treifa. That's not fake. He really was a.
It was a revelation to begin with.
Since
There's a David Shomer and Ashiki Chassid. You don't have to worry about halacha if you're a chassid.
but the Chassam Sofer is very not a chassid. And this is not a Chassidish of Mice. It's not about Mice. This is a Chassam Sofer. That's why I said before, it's printed in a Zichron LeMoshe, which was printed many, many times over in our last 150 years. And nobody says, impossible. Not happen. Didn't happen. Nobody says that. So you have to assume this Mice is real. And if it's real and it's coming from the Chassam Sofer, I have to try to understand it in the eyes of halacha. But maybe what you're saying is so. Even though the Rambam says, Ger, shemal velo taval, or taval velo mal, is not a ger. It's a goy. But the Imre Yosher and others say, yes, you're right, he's not a full-fledged Jew, but he's somewhere in between, and you mechalel Shabbos to save him. And some even hold, Avnei Nezer holds that he actually has to keep Shabbos. Even though normally a goy is not allowed to keep Shabbos, he has some kind of a kedusha, even though he's not full-fledged Yid. But perhaps that's how we can say, he's a treifa, he's not really here 100%, and chaye olam of others, nitchin, and chaye shah of his. Let's say something of a Parshas Lech Lecha. The first Nisayon of Avraham Avinu. Lech Lecha me'artzecha. Last Nisayon, the 10th is? That's the right answer. You know that? That's the right. Machlokes. Yeah. But normally.
But we take on the Akedah. He also says.
Akedah Yitzchak or?
Let's
Let's go with Akedah Yitzchak.
He also says Lech Lecha.
Sure. It's got to be an internal connection, the pnimius between the first and last huge test. What is that connection? The first Nisayon is Lech Lecha me'artzecha, meaning leave everything behind, everything that you're familiar with. Your family, your friends, your job, everything that you're familiar with. Why? For Kodesh Baruch Hu. Are you willing to let go of your past for Kodesh Baruch Hu? The last Nisayon is Akedah of Yitzchak. Keep a Yitzchak! This is a continuation. This is the Avtach of HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Sure, change of plans. Are you willing to forgo your future for HaKodesh Baruch Hu? That's the connection. What are you willing to do for HaKodesh Baruch Hu? Leave everything behind. Both past and future. If you do that, you're on the level of Avraham Avinu. But when Avraham Avinu is going to do that, the Torah suddenly tells us, by the way, you know how old he was? How old was he when he's going, Lech Lecha me'artzecha? So, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't tell me what his shoe size was, or his suit size. Who cares? For sure not. If you want, I'll prove it to you soon. Why? For sure not. 1100 maybe, I'll prove it to you. Who cares how old Avraham Avinu was? When you look at the past, many times you'll ask, why did this happen? Lama! We love asking this question. What is Lama begimatria? Lama is 30, Mem is 40, 75. She's faster than anyone else here. When we look at the future, we keep asking, what's going to be? Ma'iyeh. You're all nervous. Ma'iyeh begimatria? Ma'yihiyeh begimatria.
Oh, with the ma? Okay.
75.
75. Interesting. The question about the past, lama, always bothers us, is 75. The question about the future is 75. Avraham Avinu is 75. What's 75 in Gematria? Bitachon. Because one who has bitachon doesn't ask, lama, ma'iyeh. That's why Kodesh Baruch Hu is telling you, you know how Avraham Avinu went to Eretz Yisrael? That was 75 years. Who cares about years? He took the 75, which represents bitachon, and that's how he's going to Eretz Yisrael. The word worry in Hebrew is De'aga. How do you spell De'aga? Aleph, Gimel, Daled, Hey. All the letters. What's missing? Beis. Because when you have bitachon, you don't have De'aga. That's how Avraham Avinu is going on his mission. That's how we have to go on our mission. What is the word pressure, stress in Hebrew? Lachatz. Who has lachatz? One who doesn't introduce a Kodesh Baruch Hu. When you don't rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's lachatz. But if you take HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is represented by Yud, or if you break it into two, is Hey and Hey, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you put Hey at the beginning and Hey at the end, the lachatz turns into Hatzlacha. You want to know the suit size of Avraham Avinu?
Shoe size.
Shoe size. Shoe size or suit size?
Go ahead.
I can prove to you it's not 11. How in the world do you prove this?
You got me.
I'm going to give you now something.
trying.
I'm going to give you now something. If you hear this, you're not going to need, warn your wife, you're not going to need dessert for 2 weeks. You're not going to need, but you still need to make sure for your husband.
But if you tell him, he won't need it either.
True? But you have to write it down.
That'll be the dessert.
Listen to the voice site. It's going to change your life forever. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Avraham Avinu, he promises him, the land that you see, Asher ata royeh, I'm going to give it to you. In other words, it seems to be dependent on his sight. Whatever you see is going to be yours. How far can Avraham Avinu see? Says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, a miracle. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a miracle. He didn't even have to turn to the right, to the left. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned the country around so he can see. Shkoyach. Why was the Midah Keneged Midah? His tent had openings all over for... So HaKadosh Baruch Hu does Midah for you. You don't have to turn around 4 corners. Great. Comes the Ostrovtzer Rebbe. And if you remember last time, I showed you with you a brilliant mathematical calculation from the Ostrovtzer Rebbe. Here's another one. The Ostrovtzer Rebbe says, don't worry, I'll prove to you that Avraham Avinu is going to see the entire country, and therefore you should get the whole thing. What's the size of Eretz Yisrael? Who told you? Who told you? Did you take a measuring tape? Megillah Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, Menachos Daf Samech Daled Amud Beis, 400 parsa and 400 parsa. 400 parsa by 400 parsa. But in Sukkah, Daf Ches Amud Aleph, it says, whether you take an amma by amma, it's an amma in Trei Chumshei, in 2/5. How much is a fifth of 400? You're good with math.
75.
No.
80! So if Eretz Yisrael is 400 by 400 parsa, it really is 560 by 560. 560 parsa. Great.
Wait, how do you do
Only
560?
when you-
add a fifth?
You have to add Trei Chumshei, 2/5. 1/5. The Gemara in Sukkah Daf Ches Amud Aleph. So you're at 560, right? Now, where are you going to stand in order to see everything? Right in the center, right? If in the center, and you're going to look all over, hopefully you'll be able to see. It makes more sense. What's the size of Avraham Avinu? How tall is Avraham Avinu?
Tall enough to see that distance.
How tall is Avraham Avinu? How tall is a regular person? 6 hours. Yeah.
3 hours.
3 hours. Who told you?
Mikvah.
In Shabbos, the study based on Amud Aleph, the last verse in the Amud says that, and in other places as well. A person is 3 amos tall, not including the head. However, in Masechet Soifrim, Masechet Tanos and Beshas, Perek Chavtes, Chazal Darshan, a pasuk from Yeshaya. Ha'adam ha'gadol sheba'anakim ze Avraham, she'aya govho keneged ayin daled anashim. A giant of all giants. He is the height of 74 people. 74! But in Yalkut Reuveni, the Girsa is 70 people. So we're going to go with a Girsa of 70 people. Giant. Woo, giant. Don't go there. In Masechet Bechoros, Daf Tez Zayin, Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis, I'm sorry, Rish Lakish teaches us that a person can see the distance of Tes Zayin mil. 16 mil, that's 4 parsa. So that's a regular person. But if you're 70 times the size of a regular person, so you can see 70 times 4 is 280. Oh. Eretz Yisrael is 560. Where is exactly the middle? 280. So put Avraham Avinu right in the middle and just have him look to the right and to the left, and he can see the entire country. That proves that his shoe size or his suit size cannot be 11. Or cannot be any type. He is a giant!
According to that Cheshvan, his shoe covered the entire Israel.
It says over there that every psia, every step he took, is 3 mil. 1 psia of Avraham Avinu. And therefore,
According to your Cheshvan, it should be more.
it's not my cheshbon, it's also Tzerebe.
According to that, it should be more than that.
Maybe, I have a different question on that. His size is 74, but who says his eyesight changes?
Right.
But it's so sweet. Do you need dessert after this? Mwah! Gewaldig! The Ostov Rebbe. Based on this 74 his size, humongous size, you can understand maybe a pasuk in Parshas Vayera next week. Vayelchu yachdav, Vayelchu yachdav, Vayelchu. 3 times the Torah says Avraham Avinu was walking with Eliezer and Yitzchak. Yachdav, 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 yachdav. Why are you saying it?
They couldn't keep up with him.
They can't keep up with him. So how is it possible? You see the anav of Avraham Avinu. A normal person walks, even when he walks slow. If he's a giant and it's 3 meal, 1 psia. How slow can he go? But Avraham Avinu was such an anav. He walked slow to accommodate Yitzchak. Or the reverse. Yitzchak's Zrizin Magdim Lemitzvos was running like crazy just to keep up with Avraham. But the Chiddush is, the Torah says, the Vayelchu Yachdav to the mitzvah. And when they finish the mitzvah, Vayelchu Yachdav as well. Because Avraham Avinu can say, listen, I did the mitzvah, I'm running back home. I'm going to Bes Medrash to learn. No. You don't leave your company. And Avraham Avinu slows down to accompany Yitzchak on the way, or Yitzchak runs like crazy to be able to cover that crazy distance of 3 meal, 1 step with Avraham Avinu. I say, always a zchut and a pleasure to be here. Shekoyach Gadol.
Wow.